Een Palestijnse christen en een Israëlisch staatsburger. Elias Chacour beschrijft zijn dramatisch levensverhaal in het boek Blood Brothers, waar echter niet de bitterheid de overhand voert. Chacour, ondertussen aartsbisschop Chacour van Galilea van de Grieks-Melkitisch katholieke Kerk, kreeg ondertussen de prestigieuze Japanse Niwano vredesprijs voor zijn inspanningen om zowel de Joodse als de Palestijnse kant van de zaak te zien. Een merkwaardig man, een merkwaardig verhaal. It's a rather painful and complicated story you have lived. When the state of Israel was declared in 1948, the whole world applauded. But what did it mean for your people?
My father, who was a simple peasant in the village of Bar'am in Upper Galilee, told us, children, there are rumors. Within a few days we might have Jewish soldiers come to the village. These are survivals from a satanic plan aiming at destroying them completely. And thank God, this plan was broken. And they escaped after many among them were killed in concentration camps. The survivors, some will come to our village. We need to welcome them because they are our blood brothers. That's why I named my book Blood Brothers. We said, how comes, Father, we are blood brothers with the Jews? That can't be. He said, yes, my children. We are all descendants of an Iraqi citizen called Abraham. Wow, that was a discovery for us. And Father said, we will welcome them as a newfound brother. We'll prepare banquets for the soldiers. We'll offer them our beds. And you children will sleep on the roof of the house because we have to be hospitable to the guests. And that's what happened, in fact. They came into the village. They did not kill. They did not molest. They did not persecute anybody.
But it didn't stay like that. The soldiers did start
We
killing.
stayed 10 days like that, after which the officer of the army ordered all heads of families to come together and see him. And he gave them a written promise. You will have to leave your homes for 2 weeks. Take wife and children, lock the houses, give me the keys, and go. In 2 weeks, you will come back. What can they do in the presence of a military might? These simple peasants who have no arms, no weapons, no defensive. We left. I remember when we left, I took on my shoulder an old small blanket. This is all I could carry with me. And we walked half hour or more, 45 minutes, away from the houses of the village to a hillside from where you could see the village in front of you. And we stayed there for 2 weeks. For us children, it was paradise. We spent the whole day climbing the trees, up and down, catching birds. Well, we spent our time eating figs, almond trees, fig trees, grapes. My goodness, that was paradise for 1 week. The second week, it became a problem. It's too much. So the heads of families, father included, gathered together, went to see back the army. We want to return, and they have the written promise of the army. They went, but believe me, they never ever came back. Never ever came back.
The elders.
Yeah, my father, all the fathers of families. We did not know what happened to them. They disappeared. Only 3 months later, we knew that they were loaded onto military trucks like cattle.
Yes.
And driven from Upper Galilee to the faraway city of Nablus, where the borders were set. And the military ordered them, you leave here. This country does no more belong to you. You go wherever you want. You don't need to care for wife and children. They will care for themselves. And if you try to trespass the borders back, you will be killed before you cross. What do they have to do? To obey. They went down from Nablus to the Jordan River.
Yes.
They crossed the Jordan River. and made the very, very, very long march towards Amman, from Amman towards Damascus, from Damascus towards Beirut, and most of them were stuck and became the famous Palestinian refugees in the Arab countries.
Yes.
Yeah. Very few were able to infiltrate back through the borders with Lebanon. My father was among them. He knew very well the place. We have lands inside Lebanon till now, but we can't use it. So he knew the place very well. He came back and looked for us. He found us taking refuge in a small abandoned room in a nearby village.
Jish.
Yeah, we were 11 persons in a room that does not make than 33 square meters. Very, very, very small. We lived there. We were overjoyed and thankful to find Father back. He was such a sweet man. He always ordered my elderly brother, you never buy weapons. You never use violence. If you use violence, you will fall as a victim of violence. Don't use the ways they used against us. Be merciful to them.
After all he had been through.
Yes, ma'am. After all he has been through. Because he said, violence brings more violence, and we don't need that. But he did not stay quiet. He brought together all those who remained, collected their money, and went to the Supreme Court of Justice of Israel against the State of Israel. The first case ever opened against the State of Israel.
By your father.
Yeah. The resolution was in our favor. These are peaceful people. They have the right to return. But the army opposed. In 1950, we went back to that very court, and second resolution our favor. The army still opposed. 1951, third recourse, and third resolution our favor. Then we decided, no matter what the army says, we'll go. Let them kill us on the road.
To your village, Biram.
Yeah. It's a distance of 5 kilometers.
Yes.
From Jish to Baram. We carried our belongings. We did not have so many. And walked down from hill to valley towards Baram. When we came around the village, before we entered, we saw airplanes coming. We did not know where from. They were loaded with bombs, dynamites, with explosives that they literally rained on our homes. And the whole village was flattened to the ground.
And you were looking from a distance at your homes
We were
being
looking
demolished.
and crying like babies. Goodness, what happens? And that place has been called the Barham People Wailing Wall up till today. And we became refugees, deportees in our own country.
Reading in your very moving book, Blood Brothers, that when you were driven from Biram to Jish, that you as a small boy played football, and then you discovered
oh my God,
something.
Yes. We were playing together somewhere in the village, an open place. Then the ball ran away and I saw something strange in the ground. I tried to pick it up. It was the foot finger of a buried man on the surface of the ground. They then dug and found almost 20 men buried together.
How many?
Around 20.
20, yes.
Well, this is not the only tragedy. This is our tragedy. But that was the normal thing to find everywhere, yeah.
So they actually had rounded up the people of Gish and just
Well,
shot
for
them
the
like
people of Gish,
that?
it was a very special dealing. They used to invite all men, adult men, together in the morning. While they are lined up, they would choose You come on, 10 or 20 persons, they shot them dead in front of everybody and say to the other, you go home and you will come tomorrow. If you were there, would you wait till tomorrow to come or you would escape?
It was a way of chasing them out of the land. Had you expected that when you were living in Biram, that when the Israeli soldiers came in, that they would turn violent? I mean, your father hadn't expected it, clearly.
Nobody expected that. We have been living with Jews in the neighborhood. They came to make business with the village, to buy our fruits, to sell us their fruits. We were good neighbors together.
Were there no conflicts?
No,
no religious
no way.
conflicts?
No.
Before the state of Israel?
Not at all. I did not hear of any conflict in Galilee between the Jews of Meron and the Jews of Jish and of Sasa, of Bar'am.
And the Palestinians and... No.
We did not care who was what, Muslim, Christian or Jew. We care that we are neighbors.
And when exactly did it change?
1948.
Creation
with
of
the Zionist ideology
State of Israel.
penetrating to Palestine. Everything has been changing.
Is the longest running conflict.
Absolutely. And the conflict that does not look to have an end in the near future.
Has the Palestinian paid the price, paid the bill for what happened to the Jews during the Holocaust?
It seems that what happened to the Jews in Europe during Second World War, which was extremely sad, it was a black spot on the face of humanity to accept that the Jews go to concentration camps and be killed there. Then right after that, the Western world discovered the horrors against the Jews, and the West became guilt-ridden. They wanted to repair the evil done, no matter who would pay, provided it's not Europe. And they found a scapegoat, the Palestinians. Lucky enough for the Jews, they stopped being the dirty Jews, Munziger Jude. And they put that on our face. We became the Arabim al-Ukhlaq, Schmutziger Araber. And later we became the Palestinian terrorists.
And which is true.
No, it's not true. There are 10 times more terror every day in Washington than in a whole year in the Palestinian society. We don't say the Americans are a nation of terrorists. We say poor Americans, they are the victim of their own terrorism. But for the Palestinians, they just labeled us exactly as the Jews were labeled. Dirty Jews, we became the dirty Arabs.
Public opinion has it now, or what we saw on television, the hijacking by Palestinians, München, the Olympic Games.
Terror
everywhere
actions.
there are terrorist actions
You are
by
right.
Palestinians.
You are right. I try to explain what they do without excusing any of the terror acts that were done. But it's wrong to accuse the Palestinians in general doing that. There are many, many terror acts that were done by the Jews. But whatever the Jews do is moral because the Jews do it. And that's wrong. Jews are human beings. They do as good as anybody else, and they do as bad as anybody else. Yeah?
What is so special about you and about your book is that some words always come back, namely, don't choose sides.
Yeah.
How can you say that? You were driven out of your land, family, friends were killed, and yet you say, I understand the Jewish point of view also and don't choose side. How's that possible?
Well, I'm a Palestinian Arab Christian. I take the side of the Palestinians. But I refuse to become one-sided for the Palestinians against the Jews. That's a wrong attitude. And I ask my friends who have affinities with the Jews, friendship with the Jews, be with them, stay on their side, but don't conclude that automatically you have to be anti-Palestinian. That does not help us to draw closer together. And if you want to help the Jews or the Palestinians, please do not start with sending weapons. Weapons can only produce more enemies, more victims, widows, orphans, handicapped children. We don't need that. Keep your weapons for yourself. Yeah?
There are some old questions always coming back in this. Namely, if God told Abraham that it was his promised land and that they were the chosen people, so what are Palestinians doing there anyhow?
That's an excellent question. That's a very old question that very few still ask today in this secularized society. What do Palestinians do? They live in Palestine, but who are they? That is the question.
Yes.
Abraham himself was a Gentile from Iraq. He was a Gentile living among Gentile nations. That's exactly what the Talmud says. Who is Abraham? Abraham is a Ger Hay Ben Am Goy. It's a foreigner living among Gentile nations. And Abraham, in the Bible, Jewish Bible as well Christian Bible, is never introduced as being the Jew or the father of Jews or the father of a tribe or the leader of an army, being Israeli army or others. There is nothing in that for Abraham. Abraham is everywhere introduced as being a father of many nations. And who inherit the father? The sons, right?
Yes.
And who are his sons? Ishmael and Isaac. And the Talmud says Abraham loved both of them. He loved Ishmael and he loved Isaac. So why should one inherit and the other be expelled?
Because in the Bible, you always have the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yeah.
Ishmael is left out.
Is left out because after that the Bible has been kind of kidnapped by some priestly Jewish thought and made of Abraham a Jew. And that's not true. Yeah? And are we allowed to take pure religious arguments to justify a modern national state? I don't think so. Otherwise, where do you begin? Why do we begin with Abraham? Not before Abraham. Before Abraham, there was Melkitisch, this priest of on high, a pagan priest. Abraham paid the tithes to Melkitisch. Why don't we go before Abraham then? That religious arguments does not stand the criticism of modern philosophy and modern mentality and modern statehood.
You say we have to share or we shall all be killed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can make a very dangerous statement. If misunderstood, I might be hanging on some kind of horrible situation. The land does not and cannot belong to the Jews. The same way the land does not and cannot belong to the Palestinians. I am convinced that Palestinians and Jews must learn how to belong to the land. They have to belong to the land, not the land belongs to them.
You make very strong statements, dangerous statements. You have received death threats as well.
And so what?
It's your life.
And so what? The worst that can happen to me is that I will experience Good Friday, death.
Doesn't that frighten you?
No, because...
Why not? You're a human being.
I tell you why not. Because Good Friday does not last more than 3 days. And after that there is what? The resurrection. If we can only be patient. We can endure the cross, but towards the resurrection. And I'm not afraid for my life. I will end my life. Soon, in a few days, I will die. What if I die a few years early? What difference that makes? But it makes an eternal difference. If I try to protect my life, which will be soon ending, and end all the truth and the values and the divine commandments that God has given me, what for to protect my physical life? I'm free. I'm free because I never hated any Jew. I would give my life to save any endangered Jew because he is endangered for being a Jew, without hesitation.
You took some very important initiatives when there was a Hamas attack.
Yes.
And Jews were wounded on that, in that attack. You organized a blood bank with
Yes.
your Palestinian students.
Absolutely. I would do that again. But I pray constantly that would never be happening again. That would not be needed. I would give my blood for the Jews. Why not? You know why I give my blood for Jews?
No?
It's because Jews were born babies like me, on the image with the likeness of God. It's a great honor for me to be able to give some of my blood to flow in Jewish veins and to restore life, even if it's to one Jew. Bless him, bless them. I don't at all ask God to terminate their life. I pray daily for their leaders to change their hearts from hearts of stone, of arrogance, to hearts of flesh and mercy. That I do. I know I have to pay a price, and so what goodness. My champion paid a much higher price. You know who he was? Jesus Christ on the cross. Even there, he proved to be totally independent from reacting to the evil done to him. He continued saying, Father, please look at these people. They're idiots. They don't know what they do. Forgive them. Only a God can do that. Only a God can do that.
You have created a more Elias campus, everything from a kindergarten to the first Arab university, built libraries, etc.
I was fortunate to build schools through, not because I wanted to build schools, but because I was convinced that our future as Arab, Palestinian, Christians and Muslims in Israel would depend on the future, on the quality of education we have for our kids to be able to face the Jews face to face, equal to equal, and discover new realities. And there is nothing better for a human being than to learn new things. And your worst enemy is exactly what you ignore. Since I am a priest, I tried to build Christian schools. That means very convinced of their faith, very attached to our values. And because of our attachment to our Christian values, we could no more stay alone, isolated, enjoying what we have. We needed to have somebody come and share with us. We invited our next neighbors, the Muslims, and they started streaming to the schools.
Father Chacour, what can I wish you upon your return to Israel, to your hometown?
Just courage to persevere and the grace of God to have the courage not to be afraid of anything. That's all I need. And thank you for this interview.